Hey everyone, it's Brett from Hope to Prosper. I'm here at Carlsbad State Beach. Sorry it's a little windy, but these are the conditions I got in the middle of winter. Anyways, I'm here with my dogs, here with my brother, going on a little bit of a walk, and I will talk to you soon.
I want to talk today about the non-financial aspects of retirement. We've covered a lot about withdrawal rates, savings, investments, all the financial aspects, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the non-financial aspects. I think this is something that gets overlooked a lot. I think it's super important, and so I wanted to talk about it. I consider it like the soft aspects of retirement, the emotional and the psychological components, and I think they're critically important. I learned the hard way that these aren't things to be overlooked. So these are things that are kind of hard to quantify. You can't just get out of math and a spreadsheet and put it into a retirement calculator and figure these things out. They're kind of things you have to figure them out on your own, or you have to listen to others that have already figured them out. And I think they're equally important for a happy retirement. Obviously having money gives you options, and having some room in your budget, some wiggle room, and some fun, having a toy and a fun budget, those are all awesome things. But if you struggle with the psychological aspects of retirement, it can be just as devastating as not having a lot of financial resources. So I think it's something we want to cover, and these are things I struggle with. That's why I'm bringing them up right now. I'm kind of an analytical person. I'm a math and numbers guy myself, and so I kind of underestimated this stuff. I just didn't think it was as important as figuring out what my withdrawal rate would be. And anyways, I kind of downplayed this stuff, and I'm sorry I did. So I want to make everyone aware that I think these things are important. I kind of got off to a slow and a rocky start at my retirement, both financially and emotionally. But these things can't be overlooked. All right, so let's start with retirement aspirations, right? Basically, what are you going to do with your life when you retire? We've covered this a lot. I've covered goals, purpose, aspirations, whatever you want to call it. So I won't go into a big, long-winded explanation or go into a lot of detail, but basically, I'm putting this first for a reason. I think it's step one. If you don't have some goals or some purpose or something, your precious time could just slip away, and you won't accomplish anything meaningful, and you won't feel very useful. At least that's my experience. Everybody's different. I think there are some people who really just want to relax and enjoy their retirement. And when I first retired, that's what I wanted to do. It's funny, my brother, you can see him in the video here, he told me when he retires, he's a research scientist, so he has a stressful job like I used to have. And he said the first thing he's going to do is just get up and get a cup of coffee and sit down and relax and drink it, and then maybe get another cup of coffee. And I went through that phase, and it was fun. But after a couple weeks of that, or months, or however long it takes, you start thinking, okay, what am I really going to do with my life now that I have it? So aspirations, and you can't overlook this. You can't skip this step. You don't want your time to slip away. You don't want to not accomplish anything. And even if your main goal is just to relax and enjoy your life, mixing in something useful is probably a good idea. So I think the first thing you have to ask yourself is, what are you going to do with your retirement? Where are you going to go with it? So, I have some pretty big goals, and I have some big dreams for my retirement. And I know that's, I'm not a type A person. I wasn't a type A person before. I don't intend to become one, but I still want to do some things, and I want to accomplish some things. I didn't just retire early so I could lay around. I bought my time back. I gave up a lot of money, left a lot of money on the table to get my time back, and I want to actually do something with it. Next, let's talk about retirement phases. Pretty much anybody who's looked into retirement knows that there's three phases. There's the go-go phase, there's the slow-go phase, and then there's the no-go phase. No-go years where you can't really do much except for, hang around and hopefully be happy and relatively healthy. So I want to illustrate this basically just talking about a couple of my friends and others who have already gone through these phases of retirement. First, I just got off the phone this morning. It wasn't even an hour ago with one of my really, really good friends, my surfing buddy, basically. And he's a retired firefighter, and he was just dropping off some clothes at a shelter. And he called me, and, his wife still works, so he got her breakfast and got his daughter breakfast, and he dropped that off. And he bought some clothes and dropped them off at a shelter. He's been working out, hiking like me, losing weight, snowboarding, going on adventures, and giving back to the community. So he's kind of in his go-go phase like me. He has a lot of dreams for his retirement. He actually retired like a month before me, and we're the same age. And so he's kind of making the most of it, and he's really thoroughly enjoying it. And that's what I'm doing with my go-go years. I want to climb some big mountain peaks. I want to go see a bunch of places, all 50 states, travel. And so the go-go years, this is something that this is your opportunity, especially if you retire early, this is your opportunity to do all the things that you really want to do in your retirement. Because as time and energy and health slips away, you don't want to have skipped these things that you really wanted to accomplish. Now's the time. Next, let's talk about the slow-go years. They're not bad years. I talked to a friend of mine, called him on his birthday last weekend, and talked to him. I worked with him for quite a while. He's about 15 years older than me. Let's call him 74. And he already went through his go-go years. He bought an RV, drove around the country, did a bunch of stuff. And now he's starting to settle into his slow-go years. So what he did was he bought a couple acres of rural land, and he's cleared off his land and created some trees and gardens and stuff. And it's pretty funny because he got the land from someone who actually was trying to clean it up and had a heart attack. And so then he bought it from him. And he's on his land. And he's beyond the travel stage. He comes back to California every once in a while to visit friends and family and stuff, but he's already gotten that out of his system, and now he's in the slow-go phase, and he just likes to be on his land and watch the sunsets and pick fruit off his trees or tend his garden. And so he's kind of in the slow-go years, but in a good way. He's not just sitting and watching TV and watching the time pass. He has something he loves doing, and he's on to the second phase. I have another coworker. He's up in his 90s now, and he's in the slow-go years. He worked till he was 70, and he was retired for a little over 20 years, and now he's going out to dinner is a chore for him, and he's not traveling around or doing anything. He kind of had a small heart attack from lifting something heavy a couple years back, so now he has to take it easy. So he's at a phase in his life where the good years have slipped by, and he's still doing well. He's still happy. He lives in a nice place, and he still has his wife, and he's still having a good life. But he's in the no-go years now. He's not going to be, riding a Harley around the U.S. or any of that sort. So he has to accept what he can have for the rest of his life, and the end of his life is nearer. So those are the phases of retirement. I think they're important to understand going in so that you know what you're going to be facing and what others have gone through, and how you're going to maximize and optimize your retirement so you don't get caught not having completed the things you needed to do in the phases when those would have been a good opportunity. Let's talk about another aspect. This is something that really threw me for a loop. And it started in my career first, or it started at the end of my career, let's just say that. And it carried forward into retirement, and it sucked. And that is dealing with uncertainty, right? And so I'm not the kind of person who deals with the uncertainty very well. And when you go into retirement, everything is uncertain. You don't know how long you're going to live. You don't know how the stock market's going to do. You don't know, you don't know a lot of things. You can calculate a lot of things, but other things are way up in the air, and you have to accept them. You have to learn to accept uncertainty. What happened to me was, I had 2 jobs die out from under me at the end of my career. And, the whole thing of getting laid off in your late 50s and trying to scrambling to find another job and closing down companies, laying off your employees, that was really harsh on me. And then also, when you're doing a job search, who knows what kind of jobs you're going to be offered. Or in my case, I got offered a job or 2. I got a second job, and then I got offered another job, but they weren't exactly what I wanted. So I had to learn to accept uncertainty. And when I did this, when I finally settled into, okay, I'm just going to let this play out. And I'm going to, some guys would leave it in God's hands or the universe. And, for me, I'm kind of a pragmatist. I'm kind of a analytical person. I just said, I'm just going to let this play out and work out. And I'm going to accept whatever happens. And the outcome was good. But once I let go of the need to control things, I'm kind of a planner, goal guy, and being uncertain just sucks. But once I learned to accept that, everything went a lot better. First, in the end of my career, just accepting the fact that, I'm just going to let this play out. And then in my retirement, same thing. I can't control all these things. I can't control the stock market. I can't control how my investments are going to do. I can't control my health. I can't control that, my wife got injured. Those are things that are uncertainties, and accepting them really helped me quite a bit. The last thing I want to talk about are social issues. There's a lot of social issues in retirement that nobody discusses, and they're very important. The first one is the what do you do for a living stigma. I mean, a lot of people who've retired really early, they talk about this a lot. It's a big thing. People expect you to say, well, I'm an IT manager, or I'm a chemical tech, or I'm a tech worker, and that's really impressive. But what do you say when you're retired? Hey, I'm retired early. That should be impressive, the fact you can retire at 58, but it isn't. It isn't in society. So what I did, and this is kind of fun, I've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. I created some little business cards with my YouTube channel on it. And I tell people, I'm a creator and an investor and an entrepreneur. And that's a true story. That's what I'm doing. I make my living right now investing. And then also I'm doing a lot of creating. Haven't quite gotten to the entrepreneur phase yet, but it's still out there. But then I hand people my business card, and that really answers that question. And people get a kick out of it. So that's how I get around what do you do for a living stigma. Another social issue is most of your friends are still working. Man, all my brothers are working. A lot of my friends are working. I have 2 retired friends now. All 3 of us went out early, but most of my friends are still working. I have some other friends who are on disability, but a lot of my friends are still working. So, during the days, it's me and my wife and my dogs, basically. Every once in a while, I'll stop by and hang out with one of my brothers because they're entrepreneurs and they have a more flexible schedule. But basically, all your friends are going to still be working. So that's a big social issue. And another big social issue is that retirement really affects couples. My friend who's a fireman, his wife still works. So he does a cool thing, he brings her breakfast and stuff like that and takes care of stuff for her. But, when one spouse is working and the other isn't, that can create a lot of resentment. And there are other issues too with couples. I know for me, my wife was hoping I was going to keep working and remodel the kitchen, remodel the bathrooms, maybe get an RV, do a bunch of other stuff with the money that we don't have now. So that was an issue for us. And I had to break it to her that, hey, my time is more precious now. Working these next 5 years to have more stuff it isn't my goal, even though it might be somebody else's. Another thing, too, is space, retirement space when you're both home. That can be a big issue. My wife's been home for years and years, and now all of a sudden I'm home. And it started with COVID and stuff, so we've adjusted before I retired. But basically, we're lucky because I have my own space in my office. And then I go out into the world and I hike and do stuff like that. And my wife has her own space. She likes to be in her garden and outdoors and hanging out with her critters. So that helps us a lot. And then another social issue is just finding new activities. This is something that some people have to do. You can't do some of the things you used to do, like we play softball a lot, but now my wife and I are both injured. And so we might have to find new activities, might have to take up golf or bowling or something else. So in conclusion, I just want to say that my primary goal in retirement is to finish strong. I didn't retire early just to sit on a porch, and I didn't go out just to escape my job, although that's been really nice, I can tell you. I know my time and my health and my energy aren't going to last forever, and I'm seeing this time as precious, so I'm going to do the maximum I can with it. I'm doing all the things I could do now, and then later on, maybe I will be playing golf or watching TV more. All right, so that's all I have for you. Thank you for coming along. I appreciate you. And I wish you all health, happiness, and prosperity in your lives. We'll see you next week on our next big adventure.